So with that, I thought I would watch probably one of the most celebrated and beloved sports movies of all time. And that is the 1986 movie Hoosiers, starring Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey, and Dennis Hopper, directed by David Anspo. I have never heard of David Anspo, to be absolutely honest. So, and apparently this was his first film, along with the writer Angela Pizzo. So, yeah, I was that was interesting to find out. So I watched the movie just about a couple of hours ago before recording, and like I mentioned on the top, when it comes to sports movies, it's kind of a bog standard sports movie. When you look at the way the story runs and the dialogue and how the plot rolls, it's standard. It is underdog team gets with an underdog coach who's down on his luck, and they find out the meaning of competing and the importance of being a team and all that jazz and stuff. Which, to a lot of people, to be fair, to a lot of people who love sports, those are the things that they connect with the most. Seeing underdogs beat the big guys, they get that emotional investment whenever they see that happen, which, I understand. I used to be, like when I was a kid, and up until high school, I played sports. And so I understand the dynamics to a certain extent of team sports and why people have such an attachment to sports in itself. Like it's really the only time where a lot of people get to feel special if they're good at something, if they practice and they improve. And it's really, when you do that, is the easiest way to get recognition and congratulations, because a lot of people do understand sports and they connect in that way with others. And when a large group of people can recognize when you are good at something, it feels good to be recognized with that. So yeah, I completely understand why some people do get attached to sports and sports movies. But that's also kind of the problem with sports movies. A lot of sports movies rely on the fact that you have an attachment to sports in some tangible way. Either you love watching sports and you love rooting for your team, or you've played sports and you understand the team dynamics, or anything along those lines. They almost require you to understand what it's like to play sports and to be a part of a team, or to be good at something and get that recognition and want that recognition. Which leads to a lot of sports films having not the deepest of characters, not the best of plots, and they end up being kind of, like I said in the beginning, bog standard. They do enough to make the film entertaining and enjoyable, and that is it. And I think that's exactly what Hoosiers is. Hoosiers is as bog standard as they come. It is basically, the plot is basically a coach with a checkered past, played by Gene Hackman, and a local drunk, played by Dennis Hopper, train a small-town high school team to become a top contender for the state championship. And that's, with most sports movies and sports shows and sports fiction, that's kind of par for the course. I don't know if that started, I doubt it started with Hoosiers, but it wears that formula pretty well on this movie. So if you haven't seen it, and I know there's probably a lot of people who have, if you haven't seen this film and you've been hearing all the praise this movie gets, bear in mind that these, like, sports films don't necessarily have the deepest of plots or the most dynamic of, let's say, characterization, or any kind of camera or any kind of filmmaking tricks and deep motivations that you would normally get in other movies. It is almost a requirement that you know what you're getting into with this. There are some interesting dynamics in the movie, I guess, but are done better in other films that maybe are not sports films, but But I would say other films like The Last Picture Show probably did a much better job conveying when it comes to like small town dynamics and the importance of a sport to that town. The setting is, of course, is a small rural town in Indiana in 1952. I think it was 52. And these people are obsessed with basketball. And the coach came from New York after coaching at college and doing something pretty wrong, and was offered the job from his friend who is also a principal in the school. And that's how the plot goes. And there's the dynamic of the coach in the town, which lasts. I'll get to that in spoilers, but you do have some dramatic intangibility outside of the sport itself, of the sport being played, but it's not given that much depth. It's not really. It is inferred that you know what these people are thinking and what they feel, which, in my mind, is kind of lazy. But I understand that some people do understand those dynamics very well, and it might not be a problem with them. If you have a hard time grasping that, you might be a bit confused. Maybe not confused, but you might be like, what's the big deal? Like, I don't... Why are they this hung up on this sport? The movie doesn't really get into that too much. The other thing that I've noticed is plot contrivances throughout the movie. Like, things just happen, and happen in favor of the main character, which is Norman Dale, who is the coach played by Gene Hackman. He never really, in my mind, earns the trust that he gets in the movie. It just kind of happens. And I'll get to spoilers as to why I think that. It makes the story of the coach winning over the people in the town not seem very genuine and not seem very believable. Or the dramatic intentions they had for the film just don't work, because it's not exactly what they thought that it was going to be at that point. So I had some issues with that. What I will say, though, and this is kind of a slap to the face of the movie, is that the actors that they got for this film, it punches above the weight of the actual story and plot and dialogue. I mean, they have three great actors, Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey, and Dennis Hopper, who play not very interesting characters, but put up really good performances. Especially Dennis Hopper as Shooter, who is basically the local drunk who becomes an assistant coach at some point in the movie. It's a pretty good performance, and it's kind of par for the course for Dennis Hopper, who does very good performances in movies. The thing is, like, again, these actors are punching above their weight when it comes to the screenplay, because the screenplay is just not that interesting. But they, essentially, in my opinion, they acted their asses off to make these stories seem good. And that's cool and everything, and it helps me enjoy the movie a little bit better, because I'm seeing very good performances being played out. But I just kept asking myself when watching this film, how did they get these guys? Like, I don't know. Like, I can't imagine reading the script and going, yeah, I must do this. I don't get how they got such great actors and with a screenplay and writing that isn't very good. In fact, well, I'm not going to say it's bad. It is average. It is average for a sports movie. It is, I think it's as boilerplate and as rudimentary as it comes as a sports movie, essentially. So, yeah, that's my feeling with the performances on the movie. Great performances. And there's some very good character actors, too, that play small roles in the movie as well. But I sat here watching the movie going, these are good performances, but I don't understand how they got these great actors to play these roles that aren't terribly deep and not that interesting. So basically, the actors punched above the weight of the screenplay, which doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that I just was kind of surprised that they got such good performances. Oh, well, no, not from the actors, because these are very good actors. But I'm surprised that they were able to muster up a great performance in an otherwise average screenplay in this.